Every banned Invader Zim episode Nickelodeon tried to erase. Nickelodeon hired a man who spent the 1990s writing comics about a serial killer. They gave him a children's show. He made an episode where a child harvests organs from his classmates and replaces them with pencils and staplers. They aired it. Then a scene was quietly cut after September 11th. Then the show was cancelled mid-production, with finished scripts locked in a vault. Then Jhonen Vasquez tried to build something new. Disney took it and buried it. 5 case files, all of them real, none of them speculation. Jhonen Vasquez didn't come from animation. He came from Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, an underground comic about a man who murders people and nails their body to his wall to seal a crack. That is not a pitch. That is the actual premise. Vasquez published it starting in 1995. It had a devoted cult following. Dark, satirical, disturbing in a specific way that made people feel like they'd been let in on something. Nickelodeon knew who they were hiring. This isn't speculation. It's on record. They wanted something different. They got it. And when the audience started noticing how different it actually was, Nickelodeon started pulling the file. Today, we go through everything they hoped you'd forget. We're going chronologically. Let's open the first case. Case file number 1, Dark Harvest. Season 1, Episode 4, April 20th, 2001. Zim needs to pass as human. His plan? Extract organs from his classmates and install them inside himself. What follows is 11 minutes of Zim moving quietly through a school hallway, removing eyes, lungs, and intestines from children who are still standing upright, and replacing them with staplers, pencils, and hall passes. He walks past a bathroom and returns visibly fatter. He pats his stomach. The children are still alive. They simply no longer have their organs. It is played entirely for dark comedy. Nickelodeon aired it. That is the critical detail. They watched it, approved it through standards and practices review, and put it on television at 9 p.m. on a Friday night on a children's network. The episode is not rumored. It is not alleged. It exists. You can watch it today. What most people do not realize is that this was not an oversight. Dark Harvest passed every review Nickelodeon had, which means someone in that building looked at a cartoon depicting unanesthetized organ theft performed on an entire elementary school class and stamped it approved. The parent complaints that followed were, in retrospect, completely predictable. Case file number 1 verdict, not banned, aired, and that is the worst outcome. Case file number 2, Door to Door, Season 1, Episode 11. Original premiere date, September 14th, 2001. The episode was pulled 3 days before it was scheduled to air. The September 11th attacks happened on the 11th. By the 14th, Nickelodeon had already made the call. The episode contains a scene which a family watches a large structure come down, found footage style from a distance. Not political commentary, not intentional. Just a piece of animation that, in the specific week of September 11, 2001, became impossible to put on television. They changed it. The imagery was altered. The episode eventually aired in a modified version. Both versions have circulated online and are documented on the Invader Zim wiki. The gap between them is small in runtime. It is not small in what it means. What most people do not realize is that this was not censorship in the traditional sense. Nobody at Nickelodeon believed Vasquez was trying to make a political statement. They made the call out of fear. Fear of what an audience would feel seeing destruction imagery on a children's channels 3 days after the worst attack in American history. The edit was defensible. That does not make it less significant. A version of Invader Zim exists that Nickelodeon cannot fully acknowledge without explaining why it looked the way it did. Case file 2 verdict, altered, never officially discussed. That is the record. Case file 3, the unfinished episodes, 2002. Before the second season was complete, Nickelodeon canceled Invader Zim. Not at a season break, mid-production. Multiple episodes were in various stages when the order came through. Some partially animated, some fully scripted, some with completed voice recordings. The production stopped. Those episodes exist in some form in Nickelodeon's archive. they have never been released. The official reason? Low ratings, high production cost. Invader Zim was expensive. The detailed alien environments, the specific animation style Vasquez demanded, the level of craft, it cost more per episode than most of the network's lineup. When the ratings didn't justify the budget, Nickelodeon made a business decision. Things get even crazier when you look at what the ratings actually were. Invader Zim was not failing with its actual audience. It was failing with the broad demographic Nickelodeon needed to sell to advertisers. The viewers it did have were intensely devoted. The show generated merchandise revenue and cultural impact that outlasted dozens of shows Nickelodeon kept on air. They canceled the wrong thing for the right business reason. The unfinished episodes are in a vault right now. They have been there for over 20 years. Case File 3 verdict? Cancelled. The episodes exist. You are not permitted to see them. Case File 4, the rights. All of them. Jhonen Vasquez created Invader Zim. He does not own Invader Zim. Nickelodeon does. When Vasquez signed his deal, he transferred intellectual property ownership to the network. This is standard practice in broadcast animation. In this specific case, it is also the mechanism that keeps the unfinished episodes locked. Vasquez has been public about this. His position is documented and has been stated multiple times in interviews and public posts. Nickelodeon owns Zim. He does not. He cannot release the unfinished episodes. He cannot discuss their specific contents. He cannot build on the world he created without Nickelodeon's approval at every step. When the show was revived in 2019 as the TV movie Enter the Florpus, that revival happened because Nickelodeon decided it would, not because Vasquez pushed for it. I'm not going to lie, there is something specifically dark about the architecture of this arrangement. Vasquez built something that generated parent complaints, got cancelled mid-production, and still does not belong to him. The show lives in a building he has no key to. Case File 4 verdict? Creator. No keys. That is the deal. Case File 5, Very Important House, 2016. After Invader Zim, Jhonen Vasquez eventually pitched a new animation project, a pilot developed for Disney XD called Very Important House. A 12-year-old named Froley moves into a strange house with her cat grandpa. They become caretakers of something they don't fully understand. The pilot was produced, animated, voice acted. Disney rejected it. They kept the rights. This is the detail that matters. When a network commissions a pilot and declines to proceed to series, the intellectual property, the characters, the world, the concept, remains with the network. Vasquez cannot take Very Important House to another studio. He cannot shop the concept. Disney owns it and has no plans to make it. The pilot existed in fragments online for years before the full version was leaked in 2024. It is classified on the Lost Media Wiki as Found Disney XD Animated Pitch Pilot. Things get even crazier when you fully understand the pattern. Nickelodeon canceled the show he made for them and kept his characters. Disney took the show he tried to build next and locked that too. Jhonen Vasquez has been erased by 2 different networks. The second time, they didn't even air it first. Case File 5 verdict? Rejected, locked, leaked. Disney has no comment. Here's what the complete file looks like. Nickelodeon hired a man whose entire creative history was built on dark, unsettling art. They gave him a children's show. They approved an episode about organ theft performed on school children. They cut a scene 3 days after September 11th and never fully explained it. They canceled the show mid-production and locked the unfinished episodes in a vault his name is not on. Then Disney took the next thing he tried to build and locked that too. What most people do not realize is that this is not a story about a weird canceled cartoon. It is a story about what the broadcast animation industry does to creators who make things that are too specific, too strange, and too expensive to manage. Invader Zim was never going to survive inside the system that created it. The system was not built to hold it. The show is still out there. The fan base is still there. The unfinished episodes are still in Nickelodeon's archive, and Jhonen Vasquez is still making things within the limits of what he is permitted to make. Which case sealed it for you? The organ episode they approved? The scene they quietly altered? The episodes still sitting in the vault? the rights he will never hold, or the second show Disney buried without a word? Drop your verdict below, and hit subscribe. If Nickelodeon had this much to hide in a show about an alien, wait until you see what Cartoon Network buried inside a show about a boy and his dog. The Adventure Time case file opens next. It's already in your recommended.